Welcome to How to Become a Production SQL Database Administrator. My name is Raphael. In the previous video, we looked at the creation of a database, and we mentioned that the two primary files that are created are the data file and the transactional log file. And in this video, I'm going to give you a little more demonstration of what's happening inside the transactional log. So, as I said, when we create a database, there are two primary files that are created. And one is the MDF file, or the data file. It's called the MDF. These are the extensions, MDF file. And then the other one is called the transactional log file, and that is an LDF file. So, for example, let's take the classic example of you going into an ATM. When you go to an ATM and you withdraw $100 from your checking account, you insert the ATM in the ATM slot. You punch in your password, you select the amount you want to withdraw, and then basically you say okay, punch in a few other things, and suddenly you've got your $100 and your ATM returned. Well, that single transaction to the user is far more complex to the LDF file. So, for example, let's say that you have a starting checking account of $500 and you want to deduct $100. So, as I said, now when you insert the card into the ATM, this transactional log file is recording everything. It's recording multiple things, even though you only want a single transaction. That may be the withdrawal of the $100. It's recording, for example, the insertion of the card. It's recording the numbers of the card. It's recording the selection of the PIN. It's recording the withdrawal of $100. It's recording the balance after the $100. And then it's recording when you get the $100 and it wants to close that to count and update the balance of $400. So as you can see, there's many things that are going on here in the transactional log file, whereas in the data file, if you will, that simple question becomes, hey, you had $500, you deducted $100, and you have a balance of $400. So that may be the table for your account. But one thing you'll notice here, there are many things that are happening in the transactional log file compared to the data file. The data now is fine. You had $500 to begin with, you deducted $100, and your balance should be $500. And that was that single transaction. Now this LDF file, or transactional log file, not only recorded these three separate actions or transactions, if you will. As I mentioned, it recorded multiple things here, and we'll be demonstrating that more clearly in another video. But the point I'm trying to make here is that even though a single transaction or a multiple is happening here, a transactional log file is recording multitudes of many actions. And as you can see, if this is the size of the initial transactional log, that this amount of space in the transactional log file has been consumed, and I'm being obviously very general, just for that single transaction, if you will. So this is one of the reasons why a transactional log gets bigger, because it records multiple things for that simple transaction that you think are happening, which is the deduction of $100. So this is important to understand and how we clear that. So now let's say you get you had $500, you've got $100, and it's balanced and everything is fine, and you receive your money and you receive a card. That transaction has been committed. Now, once it's been committed, it goes from the transactional log file and updates the data file, if you will. Now the data file has that balance of $400 and everything is fine. Now all this data, this particular data now is still in the transactional log file, and even though it's been committed, it still exists there. So now let's say you come the next day and you repeat the whole same process. Your balance now is $400, and you want to deduct another $100 the next day. The same process is going to happen. You're thinking you have $400, it's going to give you $100 back, and it's going to give you a balance of $300, which is left in your saving. Again, if we don't clear this is called inactive part now, then the LDF file will have to record the second day of transaction. And it's going to do the same thing. It's going to do multiple transactions here, recording every single thing as it did the first day. And as you can see now, and I'm being obviously a little more dramatic here, but as you can see, the space is being used a lot more here just for that second transaction in this case. So what's going to happen, obviously, is the transactional log file is going to grow a little more, and this is done by the auto growth. So as we consume more space and as more activity goes here, and we don't truncate this, meaning we don't get rid of the inactive portions that have been committed here, this file, the transactional log file, will continually grow and grow and grow and go until the physical disk that it's on, if this is the physical disk, it'll consume. And now you can see that it's getting to the point as we do more transactions here and we don't manage this transactional log file, then it can be very dangerous and your system can come to a complete halt. So this illustration points out the importance of managing this. And how do we do this? How do we make sure that as we have more and more transactions happening and we're not clearing this transactional log files, those transactions that have been committed to the database, to the data file, how do we clear this or truncate it, as they say, so that this does become a problem? And I'll be discussing that in the next video. So just this illustration was to demonstrate the following point. You have two files, the MDF file and the LDF file. And we gave the example of an ATM, that when you go to an ATM and you withdraw $100, that while the while the MDF file is being updated and your balance is being recorded, there's a tremendous amount of activity going on in the transactional log file. And this is also, it's not only just a single transaction or a multiple transaction, as is here, if you will. And this, if we don't control this, this will get out of control, and we need to manage this. And this is the important concept of understanding transactional log backups. And I'm going to illustrate that to you and demonstrate that to you next. So this is a brief introduction of what a data file is and how its function, what its function is, and what is a transaction log. That is to record all changes to the database, and how to clear it if we don't, how it will come to a complete stop if we don't manage this. So in the next couple of videos, I'm going to be illustrating that. So I think I want to leave that here, and this is an important point to understand. So my name is Raphael, and this is how to become a production SQL database administrator.